This is the Sell Your Brand Show with James Bray and Mike Killen, the one-stop shop for creative solopreneurs and startups to get the best practical advice on how to build, how to brand, and how to sell online products and content. Let's get to it.
Hey guys, this is James from Brand Snack.
And this is Mike from Sell Your Service. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about designing and sourcing a logo for your business, which is a big one for us. We talked about names last week.
Yep.
And yeah, we're going to go through, does your business need a logo? And one of the main problems I think we see, and James and I see this a lot, is online businesses have a focus on getting a logo done. So they do that first and they expect that just to draw in customers, when really that entire process needs to be flipped on its head.
Yep.
And yet, you know, a fantastic logo and a well-designed one can elevate you above that kind of mid-level of your competition. You know, it adds that weight of professionalism and process and stuff that people can put their trust in. And I have heard kind of the logo is the thing that people kind of put their trust into. That's the symbol or the glyph or whatever you want to call it of where people kind of put their focus, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Apart from that, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm freezing my ass off. Your boiler's broke.
Yeah, so
what happened there? Did you try and fix it? Like your light system? It's going well.
Right. So I was sat on my couch, and so the day had been pretty bad. Okay, we'd had a power cut. I had had something like 20 payments on my payment service, like recurring payments rejected.
Good.
And then I was sat there, I was like, I am freezing my balls off here. What the fuck is going on? And I walked over and I was trying, and yeah, the boiler's knackered. So I texted you this morning, I was like, oh, by the way, the house is freezing cold, so wear a jacket.
Yeah, so cheers. So I am actually sitting here in a massive winter coat, a scarf and a hat.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll be getting fixed today. But apart from that,
This is pretty much what, like, just...
the gulag is like...
I was going to say, this is success.
Yeah.
This is what this is.
Yeah. I don't know of many stories of them being like, oh, yeah, no, we had to work in a cold office. Because it's always, it started out of a garage in South Palo Alto, California, where it's like beautiful weather all the time.
Exactly.
We started in a garage. What, in England? Yeah. Oh, well, that's why he died then.
Yeah. So he froze to death.
How the fuck else is he think he's going to survive? Yeah. So it is, and it's proper cold at the moment as well.
It is, yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm
You right?
Yeah, you right?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm doing right. By the time this comes out, it'll be we'll be full into the swing of Beaver funnels and all the training and sales and stuff. I'm assuming I'll be a millionaire. So future Mike in 2 weeks' time could well be a millionaire. So get the bloody boiler fixed.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Are we still going to be doing these shows if you're a millionaire?
Yeah, I'll do it from my gold-plated
Yacht.
pedestal yacht, gold-plated yacht. But fucking buying 10 of them a year. I'm burning through money like nobody's business.
So you will need to come back to the podcast.
Yeah. So no, we won't do it from the yacht. I keep fucking thinking because they're made of bloody gold. Yeah. Didn't think it through. All right.
Right. Let's
logo for a business.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about something that's not bollocks.
Yeah.
Or has the pretense of not being bollocks. So, logo design is a big part of a business. I've got a couple of kind of horror stories from my side of doing it right and doing it wrong. I think everyone thinks they want a really good logo, but no one's willing to put in the time and effort and budget to get a good logo.
Yeah.
And yet, at the same time, I know some businesses like WP Elevation, I mean, they have a couple of graphic designers and they're very design orientated, but they don't have like a Twitter bird symbol or a glyph for their logo.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that I wanted to kind of clear up is what is a logo?
Uh-huh.
Because Coca-Cola's logo, while recognizable and distinct, I don't think that's a good example of a logo.
No.
And this is the thing is, Google, again, is not a particularly good example of a logo.
Although they do have their G with the colours in it, but it's not.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's still not a good example of a logo.
Yeah, and Yeah, that's true. I suppose, yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Google has a real problem with being watered down anyway. And yet on the other side, I think YouTube has got quite a good logo.
Yeah, they do.
And it's just a word. WP Elevations is just the words WP Elevation written out in their colours.
But then YouTube has, I mean, there are the different types of logos. So you either have the symbol,
right,
or the word mark.
Right. Word mark.
Or
that's the term for it, is it?
Yeah,
right,
so
there you go.
Literally, if you're just writing out your business name in a certain font, that's your word mark.
Huh, okay.
Or you have your symbol, which is the graphical representation. You can either have one or the other, or you can have them both together.
Okie dokie. Right.
And there are also different types of symbols as well, but we won't go into all of that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so some people use just the word mark, some people use the symbol, some people use them together, and I think YouTube does it very well.
Yeah.
Because their symbol, you instantly know exactly what you're going to get as soon as you see it. You can see it's basically a screen, a TV screen with a play button inside it.
Yes.
So it's video.
Yeah.
That's it. So for me, that's genius. And we'll go into this a bit further into this show.
Yeah.
It's incredibly simple. It's 2 colours. Yeah. Or 1 actually, with the play buttons hollowed out.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very good example of a good logo.
So I'm going to start with an example of doing it badly, and it's on my business, and it's the exact same problem I did with the name. Is I named the business first, then designed the logo, and then thought about what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now, when I designed the first logo, I knew it was Devon Digital Design, so there were 3 Ds there, so that was quite prominent. I'm not a massive fan of alliteration, but it worked out quite well. And the initial logo, I might even see if I can find an old one, and we'll put it in like the show notes.
At least it wasn't like Devon Design.
No, it's not. And do I know Devon Design? I think I do know Devon Design. Yeah. There's ton. This is the problem.
So there's doubleD.com.
That's what they ranked for.
Just wondering.
Again, a lot of unhappy first initial visitors. A lot of unhappy.
From Penn Island going over to there.
So and there was So in the same thing of the vein, they're kind of tied together. There was like this Devon Web Design, Devon Web Digital Marketing Devon, all this kind of shit.
Yep.
And so the logo that I put together, and I did design at uni. I thought, fuck it, I'll do it. It was a square, and then the D in the middle twisted to the side like at a slant, and the middle of the D, so the hollowed out point, was kind of like a paint splat.
Okay.
But that paint splat was in the shape of Devon.
Yep.
And at the time, I thought, this is the cleverest logo that anyone has ever thought of. Now, I think at the time my old housemate gave me the idea. He was like, oh, you could put the shape of Devon in the middle. I was like, that's fucking genius. One of the facts about Devon is I think it's the largest single county in the UK, not including the whole of Yorkshire. If you break Yorkshire up, it's the largest single county. It's also the only county with 2 coastlines.
Okay, yeah.
And its shape is kind of like a square. It's kind of like a big blob square.
Yeah.
Years later, when I got another logo designed, which I'll come on to, a colleague of mine who I'd worked with for about 4 years, I said, oh, and it's the shape of Devon in the middle. He'd lived in Devon longer than I had, and he went, do you know, I'd never seen that.
That's coming from someone that was from Devon.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, oh, so it's probably not as strong as I thought it was, right? So we ended up getting a professional designer to do it. And at the time, like that kind of low polygon look was really popular. Yep. So I said, I really want something like this. And I said, I know what it's like to be a designer, so I think I want a low poly kind of look, something like this. And I even write about this on my old blog. I don't know if the post exists anymore. And I sent him that. And I assumed, again, that he would look at that logo and gone, well, this kid's done the work for me. I mean, this is, I can't improve on this.
You don't need me.
No, you don't need me, right? And he said, so I've done you a couple of low poly designs, here they are, but I've also done this one. And it was 3 Ds in the middle, kind of concentrically getting smaller. And I was like, that is 100 million times better than anything I could have done. It was really easy, it was really simple, it was repeatable, like I could draw it out. The font was perfect for the D, the colour was exactly spot on for what we talked about. And I was like, if I'd had known Now, the problem was I wasn't attached to the name at that point. I sold the business last April, so almost a year ago now anyway. So had I done everything differently, it would have worked out differently. But just paying for a professional to do it, massive, massive, massive difference.
Yep.
Like, it's so much better than anything I could have done because they had fresh eyes and I got to talk to them about the business, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like you've said, that's where a lot of people come up against a bit of a roadblock because they're not willing to pay for that service. A lot of people actually think that they can do it themselves.
Yes.
That's a huge misconception.
Absolutely. And I'm happy to say now that I shouldn't have gone anywhere near it.
Yeah, I remember when me and my wife started up a market stall business. It was many, many years ago. And I remember back then I was like, I'm in branding.
Yeah.
I obviously know how to design something.
Yeah.
So I did. And
Yeah.
I designed a logo for our business. And I thought at the time it was amazing. And then I look back at it now and I'm like, that is absolute shit.
Shit house.
Yeah. So like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Luckily, we didn't do the market stalls for that long.
Yeah.
So it didn't turn into it. No, not a lot of people saw it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's something that a lot of people aren't willing to spend the money on.
Yeah.
If you think about the time it takes to qualify as a professional graphic designer, I mean, these people go through like 3 or 4 years of uni and then go through apprenticeships and then go through a number of years of actual professional client work. That's continuous. That's day in, day out, continuous study to become and to get the knowledge of creating amazing designs. You can't do it just because you've got Photoshop.
Yeah, and this is kind of we've come on to this a few times. Is that yes, because the designer, bless him, for my first logo, he even said, "Look, man," because he happened to know me from WP Elevation as well as when I'd started coaching there, so he understood that I knew the industry, and he said, "Look, I'm going to give this back to you now. It's been a week, but if you want me to continue working on it," I was like, "Well, the fact that you've done it in a week probably explains the fact that you've been doing it for 20 years. It's not that doing it quickly means that you shouldn't pay for it. It's the amount of time they've spent learning how to do it quickly. You know, and there's a lot about the logo and logo design in general that I think people they try and balance it in the middle. If you genuinely can't afford a logo design and you don't have any money, but you know it needs to be something within your business, personally, I would stick with a word mark then.
Yeah.
And I think, do you know what? I can come up with the symbol or the glyph or the icon later at a later stage. Yeah,
exactly.
And to have someone professionally go away and do that, it's personally where the route I'd go down. But they don't. They say, well, I can't do it, so I can't afford, so I'll do it.
Yeah.
And they kind of throw something together in Photoshop. And I'm like, it's you can tell.
Yeah. And also getting a word mark done.
Yeah, is already in itself.
That still requires a professional because you then get into the whole realm of font psychology.
Yeah.
And if your entire logo, your wordmark logo, is based around text, then you need to make sure that the font you're using is giving across the sense of your values and your personality.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult to do unless you've spent time studying the psychology of text and typography.
Yeah.
Looking into costs, I've got a blog post on the Brand Snack website going into the definitive logo design cost guide.
Awesome.
So I've got a few options that people usually go down to get a logo designed and how much they are. So the first one is you doing it or a mate doing it, and that's completely free. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Even if your mate's a graphic designer, don't do it because they will be too close to the project because you will they will have an emotional connection to you and they will either be afraid of upsetting you or there's that whole kind of thing
there's
there.
also like when they present it back to you and you go, this is garbage, like real bad. It's very difficult to say that to someone
because you've got a pre-existing relationship.
It's I mean, we'll talk about this in a bit as well, is like the Beaver Funnels logo. The actual logo for Beaver Funnels is actually the font, is actually the word mark.
Yeah.
And what we asked is for a guy we know called James, who is a storyboard artist. He works on Go Jetters. Do you know Go Jetters? Yeah, so he's the storyboard artist for Go Jetters.
Oh, cool.
And I said, look, man, we want this little character. And if this was a logo by itself, I think it might be too complex because there's a lot going on. And we knew that we actually wanted a little mascot. The mascot was more important to us.
Yeah.
But we still paid for the word mark. Alone, we paid over $1,000 for the word mark because it came with the font. We knew the colours that we were using, and we showed them. And the Buster, our little guy, he was over $2,000 just to have someone whip up. And he's pretty simplistic. He's not animated or anything.
Yeah.
But because, one, James is a professional and we had someone else do that, we were able to give feedback. Now, also, you could argue that if your mates are doing work for you, they might not be at the level that you need a professional to be at.
Yep.
You know? It's very, very complex. And I think for the sake of a friendship, don't worry about it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably not an advice.
Is that why you repeatedly turned down my logo ideas for your business?
Yes. It was definitely down to the relationship side.
Yeah.
That's
But they were good, right? They
were amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I've kept them in reserve.
Perfect.
For if I ever rebrand. So yeah, don't do that. The next one is an offshore freelancer.
Yeah.
Now, usually these are guys from developing countries that are out there to make a quick buck.
Yeah.
And pretend to be something that they're not because they're in it for the money.
Yeah.
Usually you'll be dealing with someone with little to no knowledge
Yeah.
of actual design. And they will mostly give you back stock generic concepts or stolen things from other places, which then trademark against. Communication will be really difficult with them, so they will never get to truly understand what you want. You'll pay around $100 to $250 for these guys.
Yep.
And to be honest, that's not really where you want to go.
I'll say it. I've tried it, and I was fucking massively disappointed.
Yeah.
It was. We paid for it. I think I paid $750. No, $500 maybe in total. And I think what I got back.
Yeah.
Although I was happy to pay $500 for, I think the reason I was happy to pay $500 for is because they'd basically taken someone else's design, and like you can buy those logo packs on like Envato and shit.
Yeah.
And they'd basically taken that with my colours. And I was like, oh, it looks really good. Yeah, it looks good because someone else has fucking done it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm happy to say that those places those markets have their place. But I think that if it's something, you've got to think, and again, come back to vision, constantly coming back to our vision. If my vision is to run a $10 million a year business, does a $10 million a year business pay $250 for a logo from a stock pack?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
I invest in it because I know that that's going to be at the top of every letter I send, bottom of all my emails, in my signature. It's going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather save up for it.
Yeah.
Frankly, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I skipped out on one there.
Yeah.
Which was the online logo generator.
Yeah.
Again, you know, that kind of tells you not to use it.
That's your number one. That's the way you should go.
That's number one. Like,
yeah.
even better than your designs.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually like you pay under like, I don't know, from $3 to like $50 for that. And that's just pointless. Because again, you're just getting stock stuff. Again, like you say, with your colours over it, which is completely pointless. It's got nothing to do with your business apart from the colour scheme that you use, which means nothing in isolation.
Yeah.
So don't bother with that. Then we come on to, funnily enough, design contests. Now these are kind of like very like the Marmite or Vegemite of the design world.
Yep.
Some people really love them and the idea of them. Other people really hate them. Now, for Brand Snack, I actually went down this route because I wanted to see what it was like running it as a test to see if it actually had any merit to it.
Yep.
And I'll have to say that I came out with a logo that I am now happy with.
Yeah.
But the amount of work that I had to put in to get that logo, and because I'm a brand professional and I've been doing this for over 10 years and working with designers for over 10 years, I just about managed to squeeze out something that's acceptable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go down that route if...
Again, contests are fine, but they require an enormous amount of project management.
Yes.
I remember you and I kind of going through those, because I was doing the same for what we were going to set up, which is a sports company. And there was an enormous amount of back and forth for all of the projects and stuff like this. So again, contests have their place.
Yep.
And I tell you where I would go for a contest for is if I had a business and I had a brand, like let's take Beaver Funnels, right? And I think, you know, I want this to be a $10 million a year business. We're now going to have a little, like an add-on pack. And I need a little icon for it.
Yep.
I would maybe go down the contest route there.
Yeah.
Because the risk is lower, the exposure is much, much lower, but it's also an easy way to begin to generate some ideas from stuff.
Yep.
There's a level in the different types of payments you can pay, I think.
Yeah, it's anywhere from like $100 to $1,200.
Yeah, and you get what you pay for.
You very much do. I mean, like, talking about the places like 99 Designs, Design Hill. I actually use Design Hill for mine. I have to say, though, that they will tell you for your money, you will get a certain amount of designs through.
Yeah.
Like you will get 200 designs through from over, I don't know, 50 designers or whatever. 98% of those designs will be utter bollocks.
Yeah.
And from people that haven't read your brief. My brief,
yes,
I'm used to briefing professional designers.
Yeah.
My brief was spot on and as in-depth with
Yeah.
examples as possible. The amount of people that didn't even read it, and I could tell that they hadn't read it, and had just submitted something that was blatantly ripped off from somewhere else just to get the money, was laughable.
Yeah.
And it really came down to, I think, in the very end, I think there were over maybe 60 designers that submitted. Two designers, only two of them, made something that were workable. One of them I could barely communicate with when I was going back and forward for men's, and the one that actually got it in the end was still very difficult to manage. And you could still tell that they were only in it for the money at the end. They just had better idea of visual design at the end of it than anyone else, but they still weren't interested in my business. So I would be very, very, and unless you're used to working with professional graphic designers and you know exactly what you want and you can provide a brief that's concrete, I wouldn't go down the design contest route.
See, again, with Beaver Builders, I trusted James so much because I'd seen his work. His work is used by TV stations and stuff. I mean, I think he's also worked on like Paw Patrol and shit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's a good guy. I get on with him. He quite liked the name and stuff. I essentially said to him, look, man, I want something that's a beaver, and I want him to be cheeky and happy and stuff. I love MailChimp. But I want something in there that's going to pop out. And this is absolutely, for those who haven't seen the logo, that's why Buster is holding a chainsaw, right? Because he's kind of a beaver and he cuts down trees and shit like this, but also very few logos incorporate chainsaws. and it was the one thing I was adamant on.
Apart from that dentistry logo.
Yeah. He does a roaring trade. But there was an element where I was like, I do trust this guy that he knows what looks good. I told him where, this is another thing as well. I told him where I was going to use the logo. And I said 99% of the time it's going to be digital and online. And it'll probably be the size of a thumbnail most of the time. We might blow it up occasionally and just have him, but most of the time it's going to be quite small. So he stripped out a lot of the detail. He knew that it wouldn't be high quality print or the low quality like 72 DPI or anything. So explaining where, again, the vision, I knew where we were using the logo. I know where people are going to interact with it. I know where it's going to come up. he's the professional. And he went, you know what, this is going to work. This is going to be the way that it works. And when I was saying things like, oh, I'm not sure on the colors and things, he said, while I agree with you, Mike, the problem is if we have too many colors going on, it's just going to look like a blob on the screen. If you're looking on this phone, it's going to be a mess.
Yep.
You know, so there was so much that I had never considered, which says a lot about my design degree. Right? So being able to put your trust in a professional like that without having to guide them through, outsourcing someone to do your work when you have a process is a very, very different idea. And I think that's where people make the mistake. Things like the design contests, Upwork, People Per Hour, are designed for people to follow your process.
Yep.
Not for people to come up with original creative work that you can wholeheartedly trust.
Exactly.
And there's a big difference between the two, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of leads on nicely to the next step up from a design contest, which is a good graphic design freelancer.
Yeah.
Now you're going to pay anywhere in the region of $300 to $800. It's a very good place to start with if you're on a budget.
Yeah.
They're usually kind of still a design student or a junior freelancer or someone that's working very junior in a design company, but they've just kind of started on the rungs.
Yeah.
Now, you'll get decent quality.
Yeah.
You won't get top work, but you'll get something a lot better than if you went into any of the previous examples.
Yeah.
So if you really, really are on a tight budget, then that's where you should be looking at, first of all, to get something that's workable for the moment. You don't need to be an expert in briefing because they should understand the principles behind what they need from you.
Yeah.
But you may need to manage them a little bit more so.
Yeah,
because they won't be their strong points.
Yeah, I'll tell you where these guys, their skills lie is if you have someone who's really hungry for the work and they want to work, it's very hard to find someone who's more dedicated to your business. They'll come in, they'll go above and beyond. I would argue that they shouldn't be doing that, but if I'm buying it, I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They might have a bit of a discovery process. You know, like some of the guys, our two graphic designers that we use, their discovery process is at the point where we never have to write them a brief.
Yep.
But with someone who's more like on the lower end, you might have to send them a few more materials.
Yep.
Where you need to manage them is in project timelines and time management for their business. For their business, one of the things that really upsets me when I reach out to guys like this, because we use these type of guys for a lot of copywriting, is their invoicing structure is shit house. They'll send me one and then nothing for 6 months and then another 2. I'm like, dude, just pay it to me. Just send it every month. Just at the end of the month, the last day of the month, just send all your fucking invoices.
Yeah, it's the process side of things that they're not
100%. And you have an opportunity to mentor them through that because it will get you a better result.
Yep.
And it's less to do with managing the design side and more to do with managing the business side.
Yep.
But again, you kind of you get what you pay for, and we've had some fantastic experiences, and we've had some really bad ones. And I'll be honest, the bad ones have been when we haven't managed their process again.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, exactly that. So then you get up to kind of the expert graphic design freelancer. Now these are like the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
They're like literally the best you can find. They will give you something amazingly creative, amazingly individual. They will go the extra mile to look into everything about your business, your industry, your marketplace, and your competitors.
Yep.
They will research everything and pull all of that into the final work. They'll be incredibly professional.
Yep.
They'll be on point. They'll be on time. Their process will be amazing. Literally, it will be the smoothest process that you've ever been through. And you're more than likely to get something incredible out of it.
Yep.
Now, the only problem is actually finding them. There are a lot out there, but they're either fully stocked up with work for like the foreseeable future, up to like 6, 7 months, 8 months out. And you need to actually put in the work to find a designer that you like the style of and you think that will match your brand and your business. So that's the only problem there. You're going to pay around $800 to around $2,500.
Well, so So our old colleague Caroline Ellis.
Yep.
She's Know Your Mind. She's typically a graphic designer we'll use repeatedly.
Yep.
The reason why I'm happy to pay 500 quid for a single little icon is because, one, her process is spot on.
Yep.
She's always on time. Her discovery process is absolutely outstanding. And I don't ever have to send back the work and say, oh, can you just tweak this slightly? She's done it. Right?
Yep.
She's very, very detail orientated. James, like I said, it was a couple of grand for Buster. It's the difference between, do I want to pay it once and never have to touch it for 5 to 10 years and not really have to manage the process through, and therefore begin to grow a relationship, or do I spend less and put more of my time into it?
Yeah.
Having experienced, and the Devon Digital Design logo, I forget how much that was, probably close to a grand. I find it very difficult to go back now.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to, they come in, they have a 45-minute meeting with you.
Yeah.
They write out everything, they understand everything, they do it, whatever. Even for a relatively small piece, they'll send it over to you and it's kind of done.
Yeah.
And if you're really struggling with like the cost, justifying the cost, talk to them about payment plans.
Yep.
Like people are open to this kind of stuff. They want the work and they want your work.
Yep.
And a lot of them are really open to it, and that's certainly how we started. But it's now gone out to the point where I keep thinking, well, okay, let's get someone to do our certificates, like so they're professionally designed. Let's get someone to do our badges, our professional badges for Credly and stuff.
Yep.
There's so much more that the people who initially design your logo, because they understand your business, the colors, they get to know it, and they slowly work through that. And it's worth its weight in gold, man.
It is.
Yeah,
it really is. After that, you then come onto the agency side of things.
Yeah.
So you got your small agencies and your large agencies.
Yeah.
Your small agencies, you're going to pay anywhere from 500 up to 3 grand.
Yeah.
For.
Yeah.
Now, essentially the same as an expert graphic designer, but you're going to get the added benefit of more eyes on your project. So you're going to get more input, which is great. So they can look at it from all angles. They'll also have more capacity to take on your work. Yeah. They're a very good option for if you don't have time to look for an expert graphic designer yourself. Yeah. Basically. Yeah. As long as you know that the design agency is well regarded, then they will do all of that work for you. And obviously you're going to pay more for the privilege, but you're going to get very good work from them. Yeah. Because they have a project manager, usually an account manager. Yeah, so they split up all of those areas and they work within that process and they can source in the best graphic designers on their books, and they have the very kind of personalized nature, because they're small, to work with you one-on-one. Yeah. Large agencies, anywhere from, this is just for logos, from $1 grand to 5 grand. It can go a lot higher. I actually think so if I was in the position that I want to be in, which eventually, is not that far off, $10,000 for a well-designed logo, I think is perfectly acceptable. You can go up to that. Once you go beyond that, you're looking at more brand identity, not just the logo. Sure. I mean, there are reports of, I forgot who it was now, that spent $10 million on their logo. I tell you who does spend a lot of money on their logos for the wrong reasons is government departments. They spend a lot of money on their logos for the wrong reason, and that's because they have like committee boards, and everything becomes designed by committee. But I've got some here actually. Fucking hell! That's got to be a joke. What was that one? So Symantec, who I used to work with, most expensive logos of all time. So I worked for Symantec when this was happening. Right. The cost of their logo, I want to make sure that understand this. Top companies are shelling out huge bucks. This is the cost on their logo. Symantec was $1.2 billion they spent on their logo. Can you tell me what the Symantec logo is? No. Right. I would expect that to be more of a brand identity than just the logo. Well, I happen to be part of that team, but I also happen to know that they spent a long time
on that logo.
Right.
And the logo was pretty much at the core of everything. And this was years ago now, so it's probably past the statute of limitations. I was the digital marketing lead for the UK and the Nordics at the time when we were doing this.
Right.
I know for a fact that they had the logo designed first, and then they started doing the vision, the values, the mission, the roadmap. 1.2 billion is absolutely probably the colors, the language they're going to use, all that kind of shit.
Whole brand idea.
But I guarantee you that I wouldn't be surprised if you think you have 40 at the time. They had about 45, 50,000 employees, maybe 12,000 in the marketing department. They had a very large marketing department for the size of the business.
Yeah.
If we're being generous and we say that's 1,200 marketing heads, or even 120 marketing heads with their salaries at $60,000, $70,000, $120,000 a year,
Yeah.
I can absolutely see that, and everyone has to have their fucking input.
Yeah.
I can absolutely see that spiraling out of control.
Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane for a business that size as well, and going to probably one of the world's biggest design agencies for that? They still done it arse about face and created the logo first.
Oh, absolutely. Pepsi was $1 million
for the logo.
For the logo. That's the cost of the logo. Their logo is shit. Their logo is garbage. In fact, I want to come on to that briefly in a minute about Pepsi and Burger King.
Oh, yeah. Like, you can go to ridiculous realms of amounts, and it's not always the more you pay, the better you get.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a limit. There's a point where I think what I have spent $1 million on for this logo, like Accenture spent $1 million on, which is the word Accenture with an accent over it, right? $1 million that cost them.
Love it. I wish I'd been the designer for that.
Yeah, exactly. But at what point do they go, well, for $2 million, I'll tell you what you
accents.
Get? What the fuck? Like, there's how much further do you want? The logo is going to be double as good? Is the Symantec logo 128 times better than the Accenture logo?
Yeah.
Fuck no.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why it's just ridiculous.
The law of diminishing returns there.
Yeah. And that's why people get really confused about how much a logo should actually cost, because you can get like under $50 logos everywhere on the internet.
Yeah.
Or you can get $1.2 billion logo plus brand identity. And it's just like, where do you begin?
Yeah.
So yeah, large agencies will do that for you and charge an absolute fuckload for it. But the problem is that if you're not paying those realms of money and you're just a startup business, they're not going to take you seriously. And they'll take your work, but you will be literally relegated to the most junior designers that they have. They won't care about your what you want and your business, and they will just run it through as a process, not as a design project. So your work will just be, your business will be on a conveyor belt through their agency, and you'll get different people working on it every time, and it will just be an absolute mess. So unless you're some huge multinational with money to burn, I wouldn't recommend a large agency. I mean, basically you've got the three levels of a good freelance graphic designer, expert freelance graphic designer, or a small agency. And that's where you want to be going depending on your budget.
And my thing is pay as much as you can. Don't skimp back on this, because this will be with you for a long time. A long time. Very few of us have an internal graphic design team, and even then I don't think I would get them to design the logo. It's pay as much as you can, and don't be afraid to see that as a really necessary expense. The only thing I would say is don't expect your logo to bring in customers.
No.
Your logo won't bring in customers. You are better off, if you're truly strapped for cash, go out there and generate some work first. Go out and generate some business first. Bring in those invoices, and then begin to look about, okay, how do we begin to add this sheen? Because by that point you understand more about your vision. And Sell Your Service didn't have a logo for a couple of years. So it didn't need one. It was called Sell Your Service, and I couldn't even get sellyourservice.com because some other bellend had taken it. So I thought, well, I'll leave it. And then we had the kind of this angled S design. Couldn't tell you who did that one. It was a long time ago. But that's fine now, and I'm happy with it. It's pretty simple. We call it a glyph because it's very, very high level and simplistic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about understanding what your business is before you commit to large sums of money or the most you can. But also, talk about payment plans.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for Brand Snack, I spent months and months. Just figuring out what I wanted the business to be and who I wanted it to be before I went anywhere near getting a logo designed for it. Last week we talked about brand names, and we said that you need to get your entire strategy right first before you come to the brand name. That should be the last thing you do of your strategy. Likewise, your logo should be the very last thing you do in your brand design. So you need to think about your colors, you need to think about your typography, you need to think about your imagery, you need to think about all of that. You need to have your brand identity sorted out before you can have your logo. In essence, your logo is the very, very last thing that you do. Because your logo should be the summary of everything. It should be a summary of your personality and your values and your promises and your vision, and it should be also a summary of your entire visual design. That's how important it is, because the first thing people will see is your logo, and the first thing people will hear is your name. So you, from those two things, you want to instantly create an emotional response and an idea of who your business is, what it does, and where it can take people. That's a hell of a lot to put into a quarter inch.
And it's the equivalent, I've heard it described as a wax seal on a letter. You don't put the wax seal on first and then write the letter. You write the letter first, and it's the last thing you do because it's the first thing they'll see to break open.
That's a very good. I like that.
And that was how it was explained to me. It was it's often the last thing you need to think about and commit to, because it's the first thing they're going to see. So you're setting up expectations. Often when people write novels, they actually start at the end. They go, I know how I want the story to end, and then they work backwards because they want to. They look at that journey. They don't try to kind of just think, oh fuck it, I'll make it up as I go along. I'm sure some authors do. It's not a perfect example, but
I really like that wax seal example. It's the last thing you do, but the first thing they see. That's the impact that you want to start with. Because imagine if the first thing that they see is some generic shape that means nothing.
Who's the Southwest Rail?
Oh right, yeah.
Their logo is the word Southwest Rail, which is fine, but it's just got like a random dot.
Oh right.
Southwest Trains. That's it. Let me show you this. Right. So if anyone's out there, just Google Southwest Trains logo. There it is. Southwest Trains with a dot. What the fuck is that?
Wow.
What's the dot for?
That's nice. That.
Was it a stop symbol? What are you doing? And I just think they would have paid hundreds of thousands for that, and all the executives would have been sat around going, that's really clever, that's really good.
That's nice.
That's shit house.
It's got a red dot in the eye.
It's the same thing with, I'm not a massive fan, so I like the side-on Jaguar for Jaguar cars. I love.
Yeah, the side-on's very
good. That is fucking awful.
Yeah,
but they still have it.
The front on's awful.
It's, I mean, all I can think of is Thundercats. And
compared to what they want their brand to be like,
exactly,
the sophisticated.
It's like the side-on view. I really like. I understand it's not perfect. Like one of the things is, can you, a non-designer, replicate your logo on a napkin and share it with someone? That's usually quite a good example of whether something is a memorable logo. The Jaguar side-on one, it's harder to replicate, but I think it looks 100 times better, because if you put some wheels on its paws, that's the car. The front-facing one is like fucking Terry Tibbs or like Del Boy Trotter, kind of thinking this will look classy. This will look really classy. I mean, I'm surprised it doesn't have fucking frosted tips. So yeah, there's just a couple of things while kind of browsing around. The thing that people forget about logos is exactly as you say, it sums up everything about the business, but also, like, do you know what the colour of the Pepsi logo is?
Blue and red?
Yeah, it's blue.
Blue.
Pepsi's colour is blue, but they've got fucking red in there. The colour of Coca-Cola is
Red.
Red, without a shadow of a doubt. It's always red. The name is red. The colour of the McDonald's logo?
Red and yellow.
Well, the big M is yellow.
Yeah.
What's the colour of Burger King's logo?
Yeah.
Fucking brown and red and yellow and green.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know. And this is the problem, is that they often they forget that there's a symbolic representation in what it is that their logo does.
Yep.
And they try to add too much to it.
Yep.
And you see that a lot with a lot of businesses. Pepsi's a really good example of that. Pepsi's a really good example of not quite hitting the mark and also incorporating some of their competitors' colour.
I find it really weird with Pepsi because I know that they went for blue because it was basically the opposite colour
Coke,
to red.
Yeah.
But they didn't actually think about the psychological connotations of the colour blue. Which is very stable, very boring, very kind of like cool,
mellow,
calming,
chilled out.
Yet they have this whole like zest for life.
Yeah, they have their
brand.
like their Max brand.
Yeah, and it's like
everything's extreme. Yeah,
that's not what blue's about.
Yeah,
and Coke is all about like the red side of it, which is all about kind of like vigor and energy and danger, and passion. That goes a lot more with their brand, but Pepsi is just like, let's just go to the opposite.
Yeah.
Because it's the opposite, not because it's what we stand for as a brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's weird for me. With the brand snack logo, I chose the golden yellow as the main color, because it's a color of optimism.
Yeah,
it's a color of creativity and it's a color of friendliness, and that's exactly what I wanted Brand Snack to give the feeling of for people that came to it. I wanted people to feel comfortable. I wanted people to feel relaxed. I wanted people to know that they were getting something creative and easy to understand. And it's a very easy, mellow kind of color, but with that kind of like sunshine life to it of just like happiness. That's what I wanted to get across with it.
A couple of people have said that you shouldn't use yellow, and I'm inclined to disagree with them on that, because I really like the colour yellow, and I think I get in the old days of TV and stuff, because TVs was such shit quality that everything looked yellow anyway. But now everything's kind of HDR and 4K. I think yellow comes out perfectly well, and your one, which is this kind of like warm sunlight colour, this kind of glow. I personally, I'm a massive fan of. I like that a lot. I think so. Mine's for Say Your Service is green. It was basically because I was like, money. Like the color of money, I guess. I think it also was less like I really liked what it looked like on a white background. I quite liked that. I wanted to have an orange colour. Orange is one of my favourite colours. I think it's bright, it's vibrant, it's punchy. But the problem with orange is I think it's been hijacked by a lot of tech companies that try to be cool.
It has. Orange has a very childish element to it.
Me all over.
which it doesn't always come across, because every colour has its good and bad properties. Like you were saying with yellow. And it depends upon the tone of the colour that you use, the hue. So a very kind of like a more golden yellow gives off the kind of better side of yellow. Whereas a very weak yellow comes across as kind of pathetic, weak, very untrustworthy, very like shaky. So it depends upon the strength of the colour that you use and the tone. So with orange, it can be very creative, very vibrant, very youthful in its good guise, but equally it can also be seen as very childish and very fickle. But like I said, every single colour has its good and bad points to it, but it depends upon how you use it and how that then integrates with your personality as a brand. And if people experience your brand for the good side of it, they will then associate that colour with those emotions of it.
Absolutely. Which again is kind of comes back to that royal seal thing on a wax letter. If it's it wasn't everything red back then. I think they had loads of different colours of wax, and that was another thing, is they chose those after they knew what the letter was about, who it was being addressed to. You know, purple typically was being sent to clergy people. Red was typically internal. Royal black was typically sent as a a death notice, particularly in Europe.
Yeah.
So again, those kind of colours and stuff, they're usually the last thing that they're chosen because the content is taken care of first, you know?
Yeah.
But man, this was good. I wanted to kind of talk about this stuff because the more I understand about these kind of things and the experiences we've had, like the Starbucks logo, I don't think is brilliant. It's recognisable.
Yeah. It's too complicated.
There's so
and
much
it means
going
nothing.
on. It's unbelievable. And yet IBM, I think, is a good logo, except it's impossible to draw.
Yeah.
Like I can write IBM and people go, oh, it's IBM. And their blue is quite distinctive. But the fact that it's all lines broken up makes it impossible to draw out.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's the sign of a good logo. Like you say, if you can draw it out using a pencil and it looks exactly like it does.
Yeah.
Like the Twitter logo is genius.
Yeah, the little bird.
Yeah, you can draw that. And it's based on concentric circle.
Oh, is it?
Theory. Everything's a circle within a circle. And it's
So I didn't know
it
that.
didn't start off like that, but they but they redesigned it to then like the bird's head now kind of faces upwards. And if you see, everything's within
That's
circles.
interesting. I didn't know that.
So there's a lot of kind of design elements that go into logos and how they work. But yeah, the more simplistic a logo is and the more memorable it is. Think about it. If you ask someone to draw a logo, your logo, and if they can do it, then they can remember it.
Yeah.
If they can't remember it,
Yeah.
if they can't draw it, they can't remember it.
Yeah.
And it's pointless. 'Cause
Yeah.
then why have you got that logo?
Yeah.
Everyone can draw the Apple logo.
Yeah.
Not that it means anything to do with their computers, but again, that's more of a logo by association
Yeah.
rather than a logo, like not like YouTube. YouTube basically says what that brand is all about.
Yeah.
Apple does not tell you anything of what that brand is all about.
Yeah. Speaking of things you can draw quite easily, apparently, have you seen the graffiti guys who tried to draw out a swastika and couldn't do it? It was too,
I love the 3 attempts
yeah,
as well.
it was too complex. They tried to do it 3 times. Bless them. I mean, that's a fucking simple logo.
Yeah.
And they even fucked that up.
I was going to say, sometimes you can't like adjust for stupidity.
Yeah, good work, Nazis. I think that about does it.
Cool. Yeah. One last thing to say. As I've been writing blogs for Brand Snack, and I wrote the definitive logo design cost guide.
Yep.
That has quickly become my most popular blog post.
Interesting.
By far.
Yeah.
So I know that there are a lot of people out there that want to know about logo design and design in general.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't actually want to know about the strategy side of it because it's boring.
Yeah.
It does take a lot of effort, and it's not like the kind of nice stuff of like visual design is much more enticing than strategy.
I think strategy becomes exciting when you reach a certain level of maturity in your business, if I'm being honest.
Exactly, but it's not the first thing you want to get going
Yeah.
on. But you need it in order to get your visual design sorted and your logo design, all of that. But yeah, now that like that blog post has become my most popular one, I know that there's a huge demand for knowledge on that area.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am going to start writing more on the design side of it, which was my plan anyway, but I'm kind of bringing it forward because I know a lot of people want that.
Yeah.
But also, the more we can do in the show about it
Definitely, yeah.
It's a good thing to do.
I think there's a lot more that we want to focus on that, and we're certainly seeing that on our trend analytics now. It's very interesting.
Bless you.
Excuse me.
That's that broken radio.
Cool.
All right. Should we move on to the content report, which I've just realised I haven't written anything down for?
I'm going to talk about the book that I've been reading then.
Go through yours, and then I'll make up something about, I don't know, a TV show.
Sure. I've been watching Netflix.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been reading Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari.
Okay.
Nothing to do with marketing or business or any of that shit.
Cool. Yes, do it.
This book is the equivalent of... So you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
And I remember we both talked about it and we were like, this has changed everything we thought we knew about money.
Okay. Yeah.
This book has changed everything I thought I knew about being a human being. It's mind-boggling just how little we know and how little we are taught and how much horse shit there is about humankind, psychology, why cultures work the way they do, myths, human rights. Honestly, it's absolutely mental. So,
you know what? I've heard of this book.
Yeah, it's. I've only just got around to recently reading it. It went a bit viral, kind of went a bit mental. Tons of people have read it, and I finally got it on Kindle. Yeah. And I can't put it down. I'm just smashing through it, and it starts right at the start of where we think the species of Homo sapiens comes from.
Yeah.
And it goes through and basically breaks down a lot of myths about what people believe cavemen were or what happened and why are human beings the only species that build buildings and fly aircrafts and kill each other in the way that we do.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is down to things like gossip. We're the only animal that can gossip. We're the only animal that can add embellishment to facts.
Okay.
Like if a monkey warns you about, oh, there's a predator over there, a monkey can't say, oh, there's a predator over there. Oh no, there's actually 5 of them and one of them's carrying a machine gun.
Yeah.
Like it can't embellish anything.
Okay.
We also talk about like, oh, we're really bad today. We consume more than ever. 90% of species that human beings made extinct happened 45,000 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. This whole thing about, oh, we used to live in harmony with nature. Horseshit.
Right.
Well, human beings have never lived in harmony with nature ever. We had a habit of just completely destroying,
just killing,
like everything.
Right.
Like there were species in Australia, so there was like the.
They're more like a parasite.
We are. It's weird. They do make kind of some of those distinctions, and they say that we're completely unable to live in harmony with nature. People go, oh yeah, but you know, the Native Americans live in harmony. No, they didn't. They live in harmony because they'd fucking killed everything and they didn't have anything left. They had learned from their mistakes. There were species of birds and marsupials in Australia and animals and massive animals that we were absolutely responsible for making extinct. So this book, by Yuval Yuval Harari, is just unbelievable. And then it talks about like religions and how we have these myths in humankind, and that's what helps govern large societies. When you have a group of 100 people, they don't necessarily have to believe in a myth. They can kind of get along with each other based on pretty obvious examples of survival or trade or reproduction. But as soon as you start going into the tens of thousands or even millions, they have to have a common myth to believe in, and essentially that's what religion is. Okay. And now that common myth is capitalism. That common myth is money.
Yeah.
Money doesn't exist any more than any other god does, because we have faith in it. American currency even says in God we trust, because money is only worth what you believe it to be worth of. Yeah. And every single... Liv doesn't sleep now, because every single page I'm reading in bed, I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, shut up. So yeah, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, just so eye-opening.
That sounds awesome.
And like there were more than one species of human.
Okay.
Multiple species of human. There's 100 species of tarantula. So why wouldn't there be hundreds of species of human beings? And there were, and we've got evidence for them. And they were all part of the. So there's a lot of them we know about, like Homo erectus, Homo habilis, and things like this, Neanderthals and stuff like that. They are all essentially under the genus of human. Yeah. But there were loads more as well. Oh. What do we fucking do? Go over there, kill them, get rid of them.
So Homo sapiens we are just pretty lethal.
It's not that we were more dangerous. They reckon that Neanderthals and some of the other ones were bigger than us, right? But it was our ability to collaborate better,
right? Okay.
And because we could gossip, because we could chat to each other about things that had. Monkeys can't tell each other stuff that had happened 2 weeks ago. We can.
Okay.
We can teach each other things that happened. Honestly, just mind-boggling book.
Wow.
Yeah. Sapiens, really, really well worth the read.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it is, and it's quite an easy book to dip in and out of as well.
Okay.
Because it's broken up into the stages of history that you do going forward. But yeah, and the psychology behind it, you can see a lot in today.
I bet you can. Well, psychology never changes, does it?
Yeah, and this is the thing, like the breakdown of what we consider human rights.
Yeah.
Is only as true as we make it to be.
Okay.
Like, he argues that there's no such thing as a human right. Like, free treatment is something we believe in because we have grown up with the myth of believing in it. But it was only a few thousand years ago that that's not true.
Yeah.
And in the animal kingdom, that's definitely bollocks.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that they talk about how we are now like the safest society of all time. We lower crime rates, all this kind of stuff. I could talk about it all day, so I'll stop there. Very, very cool book.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it's amazing, yeah.
I'll tell you what, we'll do a show where you read through it.
I'll read through my favourite highlighted pieces that support only my arguments that I believe in.
Yeah, exactly.
Just massively selected reading. Yeah. No, it's a good book, yeah.
That sounds good. I think I'm going to have to pick that up. That sounds really good, actually.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, it is, man.
I was thinking, what have I been reading? Again, nothing to do with business, marketing, or whatever. I've been looking through a very, very interesting book called Japanese Candlestick Charting Techniques.
What in the fuck? One, what's a Japanese candle charting stick? What's a candle charting stick?
So basically, going back to my love of cryptos and trading and stock shares, all of that.
Yeah.
Basically, candlesticks are what's used to measure opening and close prices.
Candlestick charts for stocks and shares.
Yes.
Right. That I know what that is.
Explain
to the user though, the listeners.
So basically, within stocks and shares and forex and crypto graphs, you will see basically big line blocks of color, and they will each have like smaller lines coming out of the top and bottom.
Yeah.
So the big blocks of color is the opening and close price. You'll usually see red or green ones, which means they've either gone up or down. Mm-hmm. And then the wicks, the lines at the top or bottom, will be the highs and lows they've reached during that period.
Yeah.
So a very, very interesting way used from like hundreds and hundreds of years ago from Japan that have made it over to Western society for measuring stocks and shares and the trends. And basically this guy, Steve Nison, was the main guy that brought them over to the West.
Yeah.
And so we started using them in our Western analysis, in our Western technical analysis. And it's actually really interesting because talking about psychology and talking about like how psychology never changes, there are different patterns within the candlestick charts that give off indications of emotional sentiment and psychology within the markets and how they work. And it's really funny because it doesn't matter whether the charts were from 100 years ago or now. They're exactly the same. And the sentiment is exactly the same. And it never changes. There are bouts of like greed, bouts of optimism, bouts of depression, and you can see it all within these charts. So even though I'm looking at it from a technical analysis perspective on trading cryptos, it's also really, really interesting on a psychology level to see how the human mind kind of works through.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we were talking earlier about this kind of recent collapse of some of the cryptocurrencies. It's entirely based on emotion. People invest in it thinking it's logical. They think that the product is logical. They think that because it's technical, blah, 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 blah. They think because it's very, like a lot of people who invest in this kind of shit don't really understand it because it's complex. And yet, it's entirely run by emotion. The entire stock market is essentially dictated by human beings' fear.
Oh, purely.
Fear
and greed. That's all it
I've
is.
heard candlesticks charts referred to as sentiment charts. So for those, like, it's basically when you see stocks and shares like charts, and it'll have like October, November, December, and they have points throughout the day, and you see hopefully a line sort of going up and going down. You might have also seen, so it's like a line graph, but on each data point is kind of like a thick black box and then a thin line through it. And it looks a little bit like a candlestick.
A bit like a candlestick.
And you can read them, and they kind of, it's like those rolling waves going forward. And if you zoom out far enough, you go, oh yeah, no, it's a pattern.
And it's always the same pattern. Like,
that's interesting.
There was everyone was like going on like, oh, Bitcoin's going to like blow up and it's going to carry on going. But if you zoom out far enough and you look at the chart, it resembles the exact psychological chart of the way stocks and shares move. And human emotion moves. That's what it is. It's not it's not a graph about money.
No.
It's a graph about human psychology.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it, because I'll try and post up the actual graph, because it's incredibly interesting to see the stages of human emotion going from kind of, okay, here we go. Oh, is it happening? Oh, it's not quite.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now it's taking off.
Yeah.
Oh, now I better get in, because like it's really taking off and I want to be part of the in crowd. Then, oh, we've reached the top. This is probably as far as it can go.
Yeah,
Drop
and
out of it.
That's the fear part, and you can see that within. Yeah.
Then it drops all the way down till complete bottom point where it's depression, and it's like we've literally hit rock bottom. We've lost everything.
Yeah.
And then it starts building back up again, and it happens all over again.
Yeah.
And this cycle constantly happens in everything. And by looking at the charts, you can see it plain as day.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting book to read about human sentiment psychology.
That's interesting.
So yeah, there we go. If any of you guys have an interest in Japanese candlestick charting techniques, give it a go.
If I can break that at the next dinner party.
I bored my wife with it yesterday.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's definitely had enough.
Yeah.
So,
Cool, man.
That was a good episode.
Yeah, it was good.
Cool.
I think that about does it. We're over an hour now, so we've done our weekly obligation.
Done our bit.
Cheers, guys.
Cool. All
Thank
right,
you very
guys.
much, and we'll see you on the next episode next Monday.
Yep.
And I was going to say at the end of every episode, but I can't be bothered. I'm too tired now.
Something about McDonald's being cancer. That'll do.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, bud.
Right.
Bye, mate. If you liked this episode, please subscribe to the Sell Your Brand show on iTunes or your favourite podcast app and leave a rating and a review. It makes us feel all warm and fuzzy inside when we hear we're not just talking rubbish. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, drop us an email to podcast@sellyourbrandshow.com and we'll feature it in a future episode.